Hey everyone, you're listening to the Simple Electronics Podcast. I'm your host, Dan, from the Simple Electronics YouTube channel. And today I have nobody special at all. It is just me today. This is the 1 year anniversary of the podcast. In fact, it might be a little bit past the 1 year anniversary. September 4th, 2020 is when I started the podcast, and now we are September 15th on the day of recording, 16th on the day of the YouTube launch, and 17th on the day of the audio-only launch. So yeah, 1 whole year. I want to thank everyone for listening to the podcast. We're above 10,000 listens at this point, just on the audio version alone. I would have to tabulate for the YouTube. It's quite a few listens. I'm really happy you guys are enjoying it. And make sure to give me feedback on the format. If you like some things more than others, let me know either in the comments or in the show thing. I don't really know how the Spotify and iTunes works, but if you can leave a review, that would be awesome. So during the last year of doing this podcast, what have I learned? Well, first of all, I've learned that a weekly podcast would likely be way too much work for just one person. So yeah, I do have guests that carry the conversation a lot, but scheduling these things, as well as editing, putting it together, and making sure everything happens on a timely schedule, I think it would be quite impossible for me without an assistant to do. So if you're hoping for a weekly podcast, it is not going to happen until I can get an assistant. And I'll tell you, I am far away from that at this point. The podcast itself is a labor of love. It is definitely not something that's monetized. It might be monetizable, but I have not pursued those links quite yet. But it's definitely a labor of love because the amount of effort that goes into making an episode is quite high, and I gain, basically nothing monetarily. What I do gain, and what does push me to keep making these, is the feedback I'm getting from the listeners, so you guys, and I get to talk to awesome people in my vertical. These are people that usually I only see on YouTube. I only listen to them. I only watch them. It's not a two-way, but now I get to have a two-way conversation with them. Sure, people like Junk from Work, Another Maker, Pile of Stuff, Gadget Reboot, those people are very cool, and I actually email back and forth with these creators on a regular basis. So that one is still special to me, that they would sit down and take their time and have a conversation with me. But it's, the impossibles to reach, like Bit Looney, for example, Big Clive, these kinds of people that really don't owe me anything. Nobody owes me anything, but I'm just a small little speck of a creator, very likely in their eyes. I don't really want to speak for them, but that's what it feels like on my side. And to have these people still take the same amount of time out of their busy schedules to talk to me is fantastic. I also get to reach all the way across the world. I get to see what it's like in Tasmania. Anthony from One Circuit lives around there. Australia, I had Billy Rubin from there. New Zealand, that would be the Def Palm. He lives in that area too. Some people as close as Ontario, the same province as me. That would be Eric from the Make Me Lab. South Africa, I spoke to Fafa. In the States, I've had quite a few people. The 3D printing professor. I had Dad's RC Workbench, Dave Bodner, Another Maker. Oh, I forgot an Australian too, Sion, the Unexpected Maker. He's in Australia as well. So, yeah, Ireland, Brian Locke. I had Italy, Andrea Ricchetta. It's incredible that these people from all over the world get to share, their perspectives on the podcast. And I think you guys have really responded well to getting different perspectives, which is fantastic. And all of these creators, I think they're all creators. Yeah, they're all creators. Their YouTube channels have been growing. I can't say the podcast has done anything for them, really. They would have to tell me. But either way, their stuff has been growing, which is great. You should go check out the individual episodes of these people and subscribe to their YouTube channels, because really they are all fantastic creators. You can check out the whole playlist on my YouTube channel. Just in case you were wondering, the podcast actually starts from a quite humble space. I was using at the very start a hand-me-down microphone from my wife's streaming. My wife is Verowak on twitch.tv. It was by the company Blue, and it's called the Snowball. It's a very common condenser mic. It's very inexpensive. It's probably about 40 or some dollars Canadian on sale. But you can find them used kind of all over the place now. It's a decent microphone to get started with, and that just plugs USB into your computer. And the podcast episodes are recorded using Audacity, which Audacity is free software. I think it's open source. I'm not 100% sure about that. But apparently it's multi-platform, and for me it works really well. Typically what I need to do when I get my episode recorded, I record my end on Audacity, and typically the guest records their end too on Audacity, and they send me the file. And then on Audacity, I use a built-in filter called noise reduction to reduce the background noise. I record in a very noisy environment. And then I will use a compressor, which just equalizes the highs and the lows and kind of like makes it all sort of the same volume. And then I will usually run an equalizer over that, because the denoising process does degrade a lot of the audio quality. Since then, I have upgraded though, so now I use a little bit fancier equipment, but I mean, the same thing holds true. So I've got a Rode Pod mic, which is it's a dynamic microphone. So it's not a condenser, which means it's a lot less sensitive to noises that are far away and a lot more sensitive to noises that are close. This allows me to reduce the amount of background noise that it picks up. So the noise reduction algorithm in Audacity doesn't remove so much noise, which means it doesn't remove so much of the quality. Now with that, this is an XLR only microphone. I had to buy a mixer, and I was okay with buying a mixer because my dream is eventually to have in-person podcasts. And for that, you need to mix the two audio signals. So I decided to go ahead and I bought a used Behringer Xenix 1002 FX mixer. Now, the price was right on this one used. It's a little bit expensive on Amazon, but I picked it because it has the equalizer, which you can equalize the highs, the mids, and the low frequencies. So the three of them. I think it's called a European EQ or Euro style EQ, something like that. Whereas most of the mixers will only have the highs and lows. Now, after I bought this one, I figured out that there's more recent versions that actually have a compressor built in. And since the compressor is something I do in Audacity, it'd be really nice to have one on the mixer itself. So that was a bit of a fail in that respect, but I don't know, maybe I'll be able to sell this one and get the other one at a later time. Probably won't be anytime soon because of reasons I'll speak about later on in this podcast. With the new mixer, I really don't have to do any equalization in Audacity, so it actually saves me quite a bit of time. So I still do the noise reduction, I still run the compressor, and then I export it as a WAV file and put that into a Premiere Pro project where I combine with the audio from my guest, which goes through the same process. And then I, stick them together. If there's a lot of delay, I usually do my interviews over Discord, and sometimes the delay is kind of big. I will trim out the delays, and sometimes if the guest had said something that they don't want shared, I will trim that out too. But that really doesn't happen all that often. It's more the little delays or the coughs or the sneezes or whatever that I remove. That's more for your benefit than anybody else's. But these days, someone has turned me on to Zencastr. It's a website that I make an account on, and I can sort of set up my podcast there and send a link to a guest. when the guest is there, we can use voice chat on that website, which is pretty nice because sometimes it is hard to have people install Discord or if they're not familiar with Discord. And then we can record from the website. And as soon as the recording is done, I can directly download their portion of the podcast and my portion of the podcast. And so I can more easily put it together. It's less work for the guest. Don't forget, the guest is usually really busy. They have their own creating to do, or they have their own, work-life balance stuff to do. They're not like a no-life like me. And so it's much easier now. I can just grab it right off the website. I've recorded one like that, and I think I'm going to continue playing with it. Now, the only downside is it gives me a MP3 and not a WAV file. But I mean, it should be okay for most people's ears. If you're an audiophile, then it won't work for you. But for normal people, I think it's just fine. As for future guests, well, the pool is kind of dwindling. I do have a few people that are left that expressed interest, but we haven't got a chance to record yet. I really don't want to name drop these people because, well, in case they've changed their mind or, I don't know, for whatever reason, I really don't want them to feel obligated. So I will not call them out publicly that they wanted to be on the podcast until the episode actually happens. This is a very important aspect of my process. I want the guest to be able to back out at any moment. Like basically, they get a early access copy of the podcast before it goes live. And if they don't approve it, it doesn't go live. So for that reason, I don't want to tell you who is in the works to come in, but the list is dwindling. I think I have 2 or 3 interested parties now. So if you are an interested party, it's important that you contact me because I can send out emails all day long. But the fact of the matter is, you probably get a lot of emails if you're a creator. So my emails won't get shown to you. You won't see them. Maybe they'll even go into spam. So if you want an episode on the podcast, it's best for you to contact me because then I know for sure you're an interested party, and then we can go ahead with an episode. I believe that there's only one person who contacted me for an episode, and it didn't work out. Like the episode's not going to happen, and that was because this was just a commenter that was commenting something on my channel, and I said, hit me up in the emails and we can figure something out, and we ended up not figuring anything out. If you email me for an episode, unless you're a scam artist or, just a trash human being, you're probably going to get an episode because even if I don't like your stuff personally, we can definitely agree to disagree on air. So hit me up. The email is simpleelectronicsyt@gmail.com. simpleelectronicsyt@gmail.com. And we'll get something worked out. There is no cost to come onto the podcast. Like I said, the podcast is basically a money sink for me. And I think it's more of an upside because especially if you're a smaller creator, some of my listeners will go onto your site or YouTube channel or whatever. So hit me up. If I think it fits the theme, then we'll go for it. That leads me to monetization. Now, monetization is something that is just, I'm not exactly sure what to do with that. In one way, I kind of like the fact that the podcast is not really monetized. I don't have ads, even though there's a lot of products I strongly believe in that I think would benefit some of you people to know about. But then again, I have my whole YouTube channel where I do reviews and stuff about that. On the other hand, the podcast, like I said, is a major time sink. If I get someone that's really easy to work with that I already communicate with every day, let's say like another maker, then when we record the podcast, it's literally only, an hour and a half, 2 hours of recording time. And then the 2 hours of editing and the upload and the descriptions and whatever. I mean, it's like a 6 or 7 hour process compared to, a guest that maybe is in a way different time zone that I have to get up really early for or stay up really late or move stuff around. That's a much bigger much more bothersome process. And so even if it's a really easy job, like doing another maker podcast, then I mean it's like 6-7 hours. If it's a difficult one, could be over 10 hours, especially if the creator isn't that well versed on technology and I have to try to edit out, my own voice coming through their speakers and stuff like that. That is a challenge. So those could be like 10 hours of work. And again, I think the AdSense revenue from the most watched episode, which would be the first one with Pile of Stuff, with Junk from Work, I think I made $2 American on that episode. So it's not a big money maker. It's a big money sink. My question to you guys though is, should I monetize it? Would you still listen to this if I had commercials for a company like, I don't know, PCBWay or Kaiweets, like a company that I would actually use their products. I believe in their products. I don't think I'll ever do, mobile games and stuff like that, because I mean, I don't think that's right for me. Maybe people like mobile games. I don't know. I'm not a big fan. There are some games I play, but very few. Stuff like VPNs. I already use private internet access. Stuff like Audible. I don't listen to audiobooks at the moment, but I'm trying to read a lot. So, I mean, having access to books and stuff, that would be a good thing. I'm not sure. You guys let me know what you think. Should I monetize it and make this an actual viable long-term thing, or should I just leave it as grassroots? I mean, I'm fine with it either way. The only thing is that my biggest supporter right now is Patreon, and it really makes me feel bad that my patrons are basically, paying for all of it. The AdSense revenue is not very much on a YouTube channel like this, and especially on, like, let's say the podcast, where I refuse to put mid-roll ads in. I just, it's no money. There's literally no money. And so the kind folks at Patreon, which I have about 20 of, are basically funding the entire channel right now. I would much rather get, like $1 from 100 people than get, 20 people at $5 or whatever. I really feel like it should be more of the masses. And honestly, if I could fund this all by just the pre-roll and post-roll ads on YouTube, that would be fantastic. But yeah, I don't know. Should I monetize the podcast? That is the question. At the moment, it is not going to be. I don't have any short-term plans to, but maybe long-term. I really don't know. Moving on to project updates. So obviously, I've been putting out fewer videos lately, and we'll get to that shortly. But I do want to update you on some of the things I've been doing behind the scenes. So one of the things is the commission project, Project New Horizons, if you will. It's basically a doorbell that triggers itself. So I had this whole thing working. I have the PCBWay PCBs for it. I soldered in the Arduino, the DigiSpark, the little one, ATtiny85. I ran the wires out to the thing. I drilled the holes in the box. I mounted all the sensors, and it was working. I even had my wife come down here in my workshop, and just her presence triggered the doorbell. Everything was working great. I did one practice one, like I had one working, and then I was going to do the other one on camera. Next day, it doesn't work. Not only does it not work, but the DigiSpark is fried. It won't output anymore on the doorbell circuit. And so I don't know what I did. Well, I kind of know what I did. So I didn't use a resistor, because it looked like the way the board was set up, the resistor was not necessary, because it looked like it was a high impedance trace on a microcontroller, but something happened. So now I'm thinking maybe I need to redesign this board to use transistors like 2N3904s, like an NPN transistor. and maybe use a relatively high base resistor and have a diode for freewheeling, or if I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was an inductive spike. I don't know, but I blew 2 digisparks trying to prototype this. So now I'm stuck in this place where I probably have to order more boards, and I know the boards are only like $10 or whatever, so I'm not losing that much money. But like, it's a big frustrating thing because I'm not 100% sure what went wrong. And even with the Arduino connected, the button doesn't work anymore. If I disconnect it, it works. So something is shorted internally, and I'm not sure what. And I'm burning through my digisparks. I only have a few left, and I need 2 working ones for this project. So yeah, I'm not sure what's happening there. This is on my to-do list, but that's a project that was supposed to be relatively simple that ended up being not so simple, that is ending up being a real thorn in my side. I have offered the gentleman their money back, and I'll send the project over when it works, but the person refuses. They're being patient, but like, come on. I mean, enough is enough, right? Like if I was this person, I would be upset, but not necessarily tell me. So yeah, don't send me your commission projects if you're in any semblance of a hurry, because things can go wrong. And yeah, that is not, it's not great. I'm not proud of that, but I will work through it. I will get it done. I'm probably going to redesign the board. I've already kind of started. Send it back off to PCBWay and see what happens. So yeah, maybe I'll do a failure video, and then I will film the success video once that is done. Maybe I'll actually do a video on trying to figure out what the fault is. That might be an idea. But yeah, we'll have to see. Let me know what you guys want to see in the comments below. The next project I'm working on is the giant 3D printer project. Now, this is a big one because I have never used Fusion 360 so much as I did for this project. I'm on revision 3 or 4 of certain of the parts, but the news is that I had put the belt on. So right now, the XY system is almost fully fleshed out. There's just a little problem where the geometry is a bit off. So my belts are not parallel. And if your belts are not parallel, then the accuracy will change, like the dimensions will change depending on how close or how far you are from one of the pulleys. So the belts do need to become parallel. So I do need to make some adjustments. I need to move, some pieces down, some pieces up, some pieces in, some pieces out. So basically, this right now, what it consists of is 3 unique pieces that have been mirrored to go left and right. And each one of those 3 pieces do need to be modified, redesigned, and reprinted. So this is going to be an ongoing long project. I may even put this one to the side and build the super inexpensive version that I wanted to build years ago in the meantime, just to have a second printer helping print. Because this big printer, I mean, it's nice and all, but if it's not going to be done, I'd still love a second printer in case something happens to my one printer. So maybe what I'll do is I will start on the low-cost printer, build the low-cost printer so I have a low-cost printer functional, and then, get back to work on this big one. The ideal would be that this big one become bigger. So my thought was I was supposed to have a 500 mil by 300 mil by 300 mil area. However, because of the way a Core XY printer works, which is what this one is, I think it's technically really an HBot more than a Core XY, but it doesn't matter. You'll see when the video comes out. The only thing I need to do to lengthen any one of the dimensions is to lengthen the 2020 extrusions and the linear rails on any one of those directions. I have to be careful because then heating the bed becomes more difficult. The belt length needs to be tensioned more. But other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it. You just need to extend the axes. And I may decide to extend them. Maybe I'll go like a meter, like 1,000 mils in one direction and 400 in another. But don't forget, this is starting to take up a lot of space now. Already the way it sits, it's just over 2 feet long, 1.5 feet wide, and maybe 1.5 feet tall. And the build volume is looking like it's going to be somewhere around 450, 475 mil by 250 mil by 250 mil. So basically this is going to go a lot bigger if I want it, a lot bigger build volume. But at the same time, I had selected parts to be robust and precise, and I could use those on a smaller printer and buy parts to make this one like a mega squirter, have a really big nozzle and a really fast print time to make really big objects, like a meter by 400 mils in a reasonable amount of time. Probably could use 3 millimeter spools or 2 kilo or 5 kilo spools. Who knows? This is all up in the air. My important thing right now is I want to get it built and working, which doesn't seem that far away, but it will require the purchase of a bed. I think that's the only thing that's missing is the actual bed itself, which I was planning to get a piece of tempered glass, which will cost me about $60 or so. But yeah, also what I still need to design, as well as the redesign on those 3 pieces, is I have to design a tensioning mechanism for the belt. I have to design the mount for the hot end, and I have to design a cooling duct. All those things are a little bit tricky, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Like, I'm basically, at the edge of my Fusion 360 knowledge, so I'm just constantly trailblazing, more and more as I go, which is good because I'm learning for other projects. But yeah, it's a lot of work, and I really have to sit down and focus and design. So it's a lot of hours, which is a little bit sad because that video is probably going to make me, 500 views. So yay, but at least some of you guys will get a kick out of it, which is great. So yeah, so I've got the belt sort of like pinned in place right now with some clamps, and I can make the gantry move by hand. But I think what the cool thing would be is if I had got a little bit, like a main board set up just to move the steppers, so I can maybe make it move some and see if there's any improvements that I need to do. I do have to fix one of my stepper boards, one of my 3D printer boards, so I may do that also in a video, and then see if I can set it up and hook it up to the printer just to make it move a bit. That's probably going to be a Patreon video, the hooking up and making it move a bit, because it's going to be unfinished and unedited, but it will eventually trickle into the mainstream. So yeah, I'm quite excited for that, and I hope you guys are too. The next big project I want to talk about is the snow speeder, and the fact that I've done absolutely nothing with it. So I was supposed to modify it for land use and modify it for water use, but I have not got to that at this point here. The big holdup with that is I'm trying to redesign the steering mechanism, and it's very difficult because the servo is asymmetrical because of limitations on print orientation and stuff like that. And like, it's also very complicated, and I don't want this to fail, mid-use. That's the most important part, especially if it's in the water. The only water we have around here is like really close to here is a vicious river. And so if I lose steering in, as I'm playing with it in the river, it's gone forever. Like, it's going to go missing. So that's not something I want to do, especially not if I have an expensive GoPro on board. So yeah, I have to plan this out a little bit more. I might just go ahead and run it as is, and see if I can do cheap modifications to it. But I mean, again, we'll have to see about all that. It's not that easy. But for the land use, I did buy some flexible filament, so I can design wheels and tires now. So I probably going to end up doing that pretty soon. The wheels are going to be easy because they're just, you make one and the wheels are the same for both. And tires don't have to have tread. They can just be, slicks for use on pavement. If I want to go off-road, it'll need tread. And instead of using differentials or whatever, I think all I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up two Outrunner motors to each side, and each wheel will have its own motor. It'd be like having a hub motor in a e-scooter, e-bike, or something like that. Something like that. And so that'll be probably the simplest thing I can do. I have to think about simplicity because I often get tripped up. Like I try to make things complicated or really nice, and it just ends up not getting done. So, I'm going to try to get this actually finished, which would be a good start. Get some videos out there. But I am excited to print the wheels and tires because since I got the 3D printer, the plan was always to design my own remote control toys. And the Snowspeeder is one of those. It works okay. I need to modify it to work better. But once I get the hub motors figured out, I think that'll be a much cooler concept than, just the Snowspeeder. Another thing I need to work on is the RC boat. Now, the RC boat, I checked my channel the other day, and it's actually my worst viewed videos, the two about the RC boat, which I can't believe. Like, it is the worst. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to finish it all up as one video. I'm going to just make it a monolithic video from beginning to end, and it's just going to be what it is. Like, it's terrible that people didn't want to follow along with it. It didn't do well. It has like 150 views or something, and it was released like over a year ago. So that kind of sucks. So I need to package it up into one video. And again, what was stopping me here is that I would have to use a off-the-shelf speed controller, off-the-shelf remote and receiver, and servos and whatever. And I really thought that was cheating. I convinced myself that is cheating. It's not cheating. Anybody listening here, it's not cheating. It's totally valid way to do things. It's just I need to convince myself otherwise, right? Like it's a mental block. So what I need to do is I need to spend some design time. I need to design a holder for the drive shaft. I need to design a holder for the or a way to steer, so like some sort of fin to steer, and then you know what, it should be good to go. So I think I can get that one done before the snow flies. It is now September 15th. If I give myself a month, October 15th should be plenty of time to get this going. So the little RC boat will probably be not a continuation of the video that had started, but it'll be its own thing. And we should have a working and running and hilarious RC boat soon-ish. Month, 2 months maybe. It can't be mid-November because November will be too cold to go retrieve this thing if it gets lost. So yeah, that's my commitment. I'm going to get this RC boat working. I don't know how to guarantee that, but you know what? I will try my best. On to some YouTube updates. Well, first and foremost, I have to say some of the comments were always going to be negative, but I think the comments I received on the recent 01 Benchtop Multimeter review have been some of the worst I have ever received. Some people were claiming that I completely ignored the downsides. Did I though? I mean, if I told you in the very beginning that if you're wondering if this is a good unit, you should go get it. That's not because I was sent this thing for free by Banggood and I was saying go get it. It was because I had used it for like 2 weeks before that video went live, before I recorded that part. So I had already liked it. I knew that the review was going to be positive because of how much I was playing with it before. I really love this thing. And some people took that as an opportunity to tell me that my review is incredibly biased and I ignored all the negative sides. What negative sides? Honestly, what negative sides? The ones I can see are that the reading jumps around a lot. Don't forget, this is a 4.5 digit meter. It's not a 3.5, it's a 4.5. It has more work to do to get that last digit correct. And anyways, on a 4.5 digit meter, that fourth digit can be out by some amount of numbers. To me, in my mind, a 4.5 digit meter, it means it's accurate down to 3.5. That's what it means in my mind. Mind you, I'm a hobbyist. That's another thing you have to remember. I am not Dave Jones of the EEV blog. I'm not the Def Palm. I'm not any of these. I'm not Diodes Gone Wild. I'm not one of these people that are extremely experienced in the engineering field and have degrees and whatever, and they know what they're talking about. I am just a hobbyist. The truth of the matter is, on that review, if you're wondering, is that as a hobbyist, this is probably the meter with the most resolution you can get for that price. The accuracy is like spot on according to my test rig. If you don't trust my test rig, then you're going to have to go check someone else's review. But in my tests, usability, accuracy, performance, form factor, the fact that it doesn't have batteries, these are all positive things, and I love this meter. I think the closest alternative is something like $500 Canadian for like a Rigol or something system. So I really like that benchtop meter, and so of course it's going to show in the review. But I mean, you got to see, or you guys, you folks, got to see the results of my testing setup the same way I put every other meter into the testing gauntlet. It didn't get any special treatment. You guys can make up your own mind, but if you're asking me, I recommend it. I love it. It's a fantastic benchtop multimeter. I would recommend you buy one if you need a 4.5 digit meter. Why not? Right? If you don't need something portable, I definitely recommend it. But for some reason, people lost their minds on that one. And then I deleted some comments because they were extremely rude to me. They were very insulting to me personally attacking me. And some people got upset at me removing the comments, which I don't get. Like, if it's abusive, then I'm allowed to remove it. And even some people went so far as to say, or one guy went so far as to say, if a comment is harassing you, report them, don't remove them. But like, that person doesn't understand, if you report a comment for harassment, it gets removed. The only thing is, I didn't report them for harassment because that could cost you your YouTube, your Gmail account, your Google account, with all the stuff included. So I was giving the commenter the benefit of the doubt that they were just upset or whatever, or they're just mean people. I don't know. And I just removed the comment instead of reporting it for harassment, just in case this person loses their Google account. I don't want them to lose their Google account because of something they said, right? Everybody has a bad day. I didn't want to judge that person based on their one comment because I don't think they were a regular commenter on my channel. And so, yeah, I removed a comment. And so actually I removed, I think I just did one on that video. And so that is that. I mean, you can't just come to my channel and start insulting me. If you want to give me, constructive criticism, that is more than allowed. You probably won't get a little heart from me if you're being a bit harsh about it, but it doesn't matter. I do want your comments. This is very true. But you can't be abusive. And if you're abusive towards my other commenters, then it is for sure that you're getting removed. It's that simple. If you're abusive to me, I'll probably just delete your comment. If you're abusive to another one of my commenters, or like a podcast guest or something, you are getting reported and hidden from my channel, and that's that. So anyways, that being said, those comments have kind of affected me because I am at a point where I'm trying to get videos done. I'm having a lot of problems with motivation. And when I get comments like that, then I second guess every one of my decisions. I'll give you an example. I did a video on a motor driver, the L298N, and I had completely forgotten that I had seen Anthony's from One Circuit's video on it, rocking a baby rocking thing. So typically, when I make a video so close to another creator's video, I will tell people to go check out that video. And if I mention something that's similar to what's mentioned in their video, I will usually credit them for it. But I've had so much on my mind lately, and we'll get to that in a moment, that I completely forgot. So I completely excluded Anthony's video from mine. And I'm sure he's not offended. Like, he seems like a really nice guy. But it doesn't matter what he feels. I feel like I dropped the ball. And having comments like that, that reminds me that I sometimes drop the ball. So now thinking forward, I've got really technical videos that I really want to make. One example of that is I have a electronic rust control module that goes onto a car. And in case you're wondering, I don't want to say the S word because these companies are very litigious, but let's just say I don't recommend you buying one. And because of my second guessing everything, I am trying to plan out a very good methodology in order to test it. I am trying to plan out how I'm going to explain the claims that these companies make. I'm going to have to figure out a way to present it in a way that doesn't include their source videos, because I don't want them to copyright claim my video, because they will do literally anything to stop the truth escaping. I mean, their business. And so, yeah, this stuff weighs heavy on me, and it kind of like stops me from making certain videos. A lot of people will just tell me, screw what the other people say, just do it. But I mean, when you're on the receiving end, it's not quite the same. And on top of that, because some of the criticism, even though they come from a evil place, and sometimes they're absolutely correct. They're absolutely right that I should have attacked it a different way. And, that makes me regret it. And, it just is what it is. If you add to that the fact that the YouTube views have been going down, and I know it's not just my channel, it's kind of YouTube wide, it's just hard to make decisions like this. Like, when is good enough, and should I be aiming higher? So yeah, it's a little difficult to make videos with that in mind, but hoping I snap out of that, because yeah, here goes. In the personal update front, my teaching job cut a whole bunch of my hours. It has nothing to do with me. My direct boss is it's out of his hands too. Management decided to cut hours for a sensible reason. There is a good reason why the department's hours were cut. I don't agree with the decision, and I'm not sure. I don't think my boss agrees with the decision either, my direct boss. But what that means is that I have far fewer teaching hours now, starting, last week or 2 weeks ago. I will only be teaching the program that me and a coworker built from the ground up, instead of teaching that program on top of 3 other programs. So that means that for large periods of time, I will be only working at the shop, the mechanic shop, on weekends. And then other periods of time, I will be working at the college weekdays and at the shop on weekends. So that's going to be a big hit to my income. I don't know how financially how I will be. And so, things have to stop now. I have to stop buying stuff for a mailbag before I can actually figure out what my finances will look like going forward. I probably have to prioritize making videos, but also working on a business that I want to start. So yeah, the future is uncertain for me, which gives me a lot of anxiety. And that anxiety usually manifests itself in a condition that I have called Restless Leg Syndrome. So basically you have to, it's basically your legs are in pain if you don't move them around a lot. And it usually affects me at night, so it makes me unable to sleep. Typically, if I'm not anxious, I can fall asleep and then my body will just move by itself in the night. You should ask my wife. I move a lot. I move like back and forth in the bed all night. But if I'm sleeping for that, it's not a big deal. The problem is if I'm too anxious to sleep and then it hits me, I won't be able to sleep that night for most of the night. Usually I get like 2-3 hours of sleep on a bad night. So that anxiety is coming from work. It's coming from, the lack of motivation for making YouTube videos. Like, I set up for a video and I just can't bring myself to do it. So yeah, if you see less production from me, it's because of that. It's because, I'm trying, but it's difficult. It's very hard to get a video out some days. I'm sure a lot of creators have experienced something similar. Maybe not this exact thing, but definitely something similar, where they'll have periods where they're not very productive. Like they just can't be productive. The problem with me is that because my hours just got cut, I have to be productive. I have to go make some videos. And so yeah, I'm going to try to commit to make more videos because I got to make something happen for myself, because I can't trust, the college or whatever to just restore some hours. Now, what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to go to Patreon and go donate money because you're hearing me say this. I want you to know that I'm very fortunate that I have a job that I'm very good at. So auto mechanics, I'm very good at it. And at any time, I can just change my shift from just Saturdays, which allowed me to teach, into like a 40-hour work week, Monday to Friday. I can easily go and switch back up to that. The reason why I'm not doing that immediately is because, one, I don't really like this job anymore. It's very difficult. It's very stressful. It's like difficult as in like on my body. And it's also very stressful because you only get paid for the jobs you do. And so if there's a quiet season, like usually in the winter and sometimes the middle of summer, there's not much work to go around. So you don't do anything. So you spend 8 hours in a garage and you don't get paid for, you probably only get paid for 2 hours if it's really dead. So, although I can go back, I don't really want to. And on top of that, I need to work on getting my YouTube channel, back in shape, back in productive. And I also want to work on some side projects and some, basically some starting my own business. So I don't have to rely on an outside source. What I love to do is teach. And what I would love to do on my on my business is teach professionally without the umbrella of a college. I would like to do private courses, training for techs, and courses basically. And maybe even write a book. I have been sort of contemplating playing with writing books, and try to diversify my income stream so I can just keep doing what I love without having to answer to a budgetary committee and stuff like that, like I do at the college. So that's what I'm planning on doing. And why I don't want you to go on Patreon and donate money just because you heard this, because I can make money whenever I want. But if I do go back to the shop and work full time, then I won't have the energy or the drive to do these other things that invest in myself. So I'll be able to get paid, I'll be able to make money and pay my bills, but I won't be happy. So if you do end up going to Patreon to support me, make sure it's because you want to support my efforts on YouTube, on the podcast, on whatever, and not because you feel bad that I lost some hours. I am more fortunate than most in that aspect. I will go back to work, pull myself up by my bootstraps if I need to, but I don't want to need to. That's the issue right now. I feel like going back there would be giving up on a dream, and I need to work on that dream right now. And then when I run out of money, which is, presumably soon, then I'm going to have to go back. But until then, I'm working on my dreams. And on that unfortunate note, before I was told that I was not getting renewed my contract for the regular program, I basically got told, by the way, on Thursday, and the new contract was supposed to start next Tuesday. So I only had a few days of notice. I had ordered a drone. So I've had my eyes on a Mavic Mini Air 2. I think the little one, the 249 gram one. I think it's similar to the one I was talking to Dave Bodner about on his appearance on the podcast. But I was looking at that, but it was $1,300 Canadian. That's just way too much, even though I was earning decent money teaching in the program I was teaching. And I was expecting to have 8 more weeks of pay in the next contract, and then 8 weeks off, and then 8 more weeks of pay, and so on and so on. It was too much. Like, it won't add $1,300 worth of video production. I mean, it may, but it probably won't. So what I did is I took a look at probably about 50 of the little camera drones on AliExpress. I waded through them. It probably took me about 6 hours of research. And I found one that seems decent. Now, I don't want to tell you which one it is because some of you will just run out and go buy it. I want to test it first. It looks like it'll do the job, but I'm not sure. I can't be 100% sure. So until I do the full review, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna be hopeful, but I'm gonna wait. So the plan is to have my wife or a friend fly this camera drone. It takes 1080p footage. Debatable whether or not that's going to be super good footage, but it doesn't matter. It takes footage, and it's going to be to fly it around when I do my RC projects. So we get a little bit more of a polished look to the videos. I'm not only interested in the making process of the stuff I make, like the RC cars and the electronics projects, the circuit boards, whatever. I'm also interested in improving the video quality. Like, to me, making is making, and making the video is included in that. So I bought this drone. It should be in this week, maybe next week. I don't know. Canada Post and I are not getting along right now. We'll get into that in a moment too. But the plan is to get some nice footage of the RC cars and, have a partner come out with me and film to try to increase the video quality. Now, for those of you that think it's going to get in the way of content, I don't think so. It shouldn't. But the important thing to remember is that the more people watch my videos, the more funding I will get from AdSense. And, I would love to bring up that percentage, maybe 2 or 3 videos a year, making good income, a couple $100 of AdSense. And so I can take that couple $100 and reinvest into the channel. That's the goal. There's tons of things that I would love to do. I just can't afford to. Before I lost my hours, just literally, I can't afford to get, 4 hub motors and make a cool go-kart like BitLooney did. I can't afford to put up, an array of solar panels in the backyard and try to run my channel completely off solar. I can't. There's no way. I can't afford it with the hours I work before, and now even less so. So I'm hoping to get a couple of really popular videos, like hit videos that could support my spending habits in a little bit of a better way, a little bit higher. Because at the moment, I'll have to tell you, my big 3D printer, if you don't count labor, just parts, I think I'm up to like $700 in parts. So I really could have bought a 500 by 500 by 500 3D printer, the Tron XY X5A 500. I think that would have cost me just a couple $100 more, and it would have come in kit form, and it would have been already built. But the thing is, I want to make my own stuff. I want to make cool stuff and put it on the internet. And so that is why I need a little bit more funding to do so. And I don't want it to come out of your pockets directly. The more people watch the channel, the more it gets shared around, the more AdSense revenue I'll make, and that I can use that AdSense to reinvest instead of you guys spending your money. Ideally everything would be free, but it's not. So that's why I'm trying to get the channel to grow so I can do these cooler projects. I was just about to go buy the lumber literally this week or last week to go retrofit my workshop. I have a workshop in workbenches and proper lighting and stuff like that, so I can film bigger videos, not much bigger, but bigger than what's available on my bench. And I can't do that. I can't spend $100 worth of wood at this point. But if I had, a high quality video, bring in a little bit more money, then of course I could use that as sort of like a business expense and build it. So that's the goal of these bigger things. So the drone is going to try to contribute to that. I'm also going to probably set up a B-roll set as cheaply as possible. I think I'm going to 3D print like a turntable. That's the goal. 3D print a turntable and make a set out of thrift store stuff in a corner of my workshop. Try to light it with the LEDs I have already, and give people some good shots, because it is hard to see sometimes when I work from top down, and I completely get that. So I am working on the video quality of things. I wish I would have known before I bought the drone that I was going to lose my hours, but I think it'll be for the best. I think I'll be able to put out some higher quality videos and actually make this thing work for its money. It cost me $150, $160, something like that. So it's not a huge amount, but it's an investment. It's something I didn't need. It's something I wanted, and I hope that it'll make the channel better for it. And on that same vein, I want to make more 101 and explainer videos, like really trying to get down to the nitty-gritty of how to teach people things. I want to show people things. I want to tackle Ohm's law. I want to tackle a whole bunch of basic concepts, because I think that's what my viewers would like. And I think those are also wider reaching videos. So, the future of the channel hopefully will be productivity, and it'll be more polished videos on some aspects. Some videos will stay the same, but I do want to polish some other videos more. I do want to have more basics and like sort of learning type stuff. And I'm thinking if I can get back into the swing of it, I kind of want to do a video release for every day of December. It's December is the best AdSense month, but on top of that, it's the month where the most people have the most time off. So I'm thinking about it. Not sure, but I do want to do a release for every single day in December. So that being said, if there's anything you guys want to see, you have to let me know. The best way to let me know is in the comments section of the YouTube channel or the podcast looking place, wherever you're listening, if it's possible, or just send me an email. I said my email earlier in the podcast. And don't forget, if you do go onto my Patreon, which is patreon.com/simpleelectronics, and support me there, I do not want it to be because I have reduced hours at the college. What I do want it to be is if you believe in what I believe in and you want to support my creative side, that's why you should donate, but for no other reasons. If you're trying to support someone in need, please, there are people that deserve it way more than me. People who don't have the ability to make money, support them. But if you like my vision and you like where this is going, then you should go to my Patreon and check me out. But other than that, check out the playlist for the last year of this podcast, and I will guarantee you any one of those episodes will be a good one, and you should definitely go subscribe to those people's YouTube channels and maybe their Patreons if you are if you have the ability to support someone. Other than that, I want to thank you guys all for listening. I want to thank you all for listening for a whole year. Some of you have been. And I hope that this podcast lasts, more and more years to come. Thanks for listening.